So even if like Netflix hits me up tomorrow, they're like, we have an hour special for you. I'm like, I can't do that. You know, like I don't have the material for it. Like in terms of like written jokes, but in terms of like the skills, like I don't have that. It'd be like, you know, you pick up guitar, you're a year in,
someone says
and
you're
fucking
gonna go on tour. The fuck, you know.
yeah, like fucking I don't know. Rick James, like I want you to play backup for me.
Rick
or fucking,
James, out of all.
yeah, I don't know. It just felt right,
Rick
but I don't know.
Do I give you like a porn 70s vibe?
No, I don't know. I don't know why. I was like, I thought about it, and I was like, that's weird. But I was like, I'm gonna say it.
I'm gonna go for Rick James.
But I don't know. Whatever. Imagine Dragons wants you to be there. I don't fucking know. You know
I
what
think
I
I'd
mean?
rather
Like,
go on the Rick James.
exactly. Yeah. Fuck you. Yeah. So
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
like it sounds like a blast. Thanks for having me. How are you? This is great. Are we live?
Yeah, well, we're recording. Well, look, dude, Tom, man, I'm psyched to have you on the show. One, you're the first comedian that I've had on.
Sick.
And I fucking love stand-up comedy.
Okay.
Like, I love comedy, dude. I'm a huge fan. And then I remember when I saw you at Melrose, and I was like, dude, you fucking made me laugh, dude.
Thanks, homie.
And I loved it. I loved the show. And I remember I told Steve right away, I'm like, dude, what the fuck's his name, this guy? Because I was too stoned. I was smoked a J before. I was like, I don't remember what the fuck. But no one made me laugh like the way you made me laugh that night. So I know it's not just a joint. And I told Steve right away, I'm like, yo, Steve, you got to give me this guy's fucking name. I got to get him on the show to find out what the fuck is going on in that brain, because dude, it was fucking funny, some of the stories that you were talking about. So.
Oh man, you're gassing me up. I love it.
I love it. I'm gonna fucking keep throwing shit at you. And dude, so I'm fucking happy to have you on. I'm looking forward to hearing how you got into comedy and all this stuff, dude. So
dude, I'm stoked to be here. I don't know. Stef called me and he was like, dude, the idea of the show, you know, I'm speaking to the
yeah.
He was like, the idea of the show is you come on and you just talk about how much of a genius you are and how you got here. And I was like, yeah, I think I could do that. That's chill. That's chill.
How long we got?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, book me for like a full day, you know? Oh, fuck, okay. It's good? Good like that?
Yeah, dude, it's fine. But, and so like, yeah, so that night at Melrose, I remember you saying a bunch of jokes, dude, about your mom and like some of the shit, dude, and some funny shit, dude, honestly. Yeah. And so usually in every fucking comedian, there's elements of truth to it. And it's not always just fucking around. But I loved the way you brought the story together. And I think that to me was what you did well, you know, is you're, because I find comedy, dude, you're a fucking funny storyteller.
Thanks.
And so, like, how did you get into it? Like, in the first place? Well, how'd you break into comedy? Juicy question.
I mean, I've, you know, I think it started with like a really like lust for attention, you know, like I just, you know, not to go too far back, but like as a kid, my family was kind of like, it was kind of like don't draw attention to yourself. Like it's rude if you are like hogging the spotlight. Like don't be cheesy, or don't be like don't be so much needing attention, you know? But like I was the youngest boy, so I like wanted attention a lot. And also, you know, I was like really creative and artistic, and I didn't really realize that until later. Mm-hmm. And I think kind of the combination of like, you know, a bit of repression of some of those desires combined with like a pretty like, you know, crazy imagination and creative brain. Like by the time I hit my 20s, there were like a couple instances where I could get on stage and do some shit. And I was like, oh my God, this is so sick. I started in music a bit because I was like, I'll be a rock star, you know? But it's like, I realized I didn't really want to play music. I just wanted to be on stage, like, you know, whatever, shaking my ass. I don't know. So like, just like, I'm sick, you know?
Look at me, bro.
Exactly. And then I started playing music and I realized I was like, dude, this is going to take so much practice, like to get good at it.
This is longer than I thought.
I was like, fuck that. I could just like talk some shit and like get famous fast, you know? Which is like really shitty, because I think that's a lot of people's thought process nowadays with comedy is like, comedy is such a low barrier to entry that any like fucking jackass with an opinion can get on stage and do it. I think to its detriment, you know.
It's like a podcast.
Exactly.
Any fucking clown could just put together
like,
a show.
I got one, you got one. Like who fucking doesn't have one, you know? So it's like, yeah. So, but that was pretty much it. It was like I was really creative. and I didn't have an outlet for that. I did a play in university and loved it. I always I didn't realize, but I'd watch stand up and I was like, I thought it was so fucking cool. Like I saw Dane Cook's special before he was like canceled. And I saw even like Robin Williams and like Eddie Murphy and shit. Like I always really liked those guys. And yeah, I don't know. It kind of like precipitated from like an interest in art. And then like, it just felt right. I did it I was on stage, like that felt really good. And then I did like a show here and there and it felt right. And yeah, and then I started to do it, and then I was like, oh yeah, this feels good. It felt more correct than music.
Yeah.
Music has always been really frustrating to me because it's like I couldn't express myself directly. You have to basically master the instrument, and then you can express yourself artistically.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way. It's like you have to go through this process.
Yeah.
Before you can become like an artist to it. You got to go through the whole just like technique of learning how to fucking play a guitar.
Yeah, or you're like somebody, I always like somebody like Kurt Cobain that's like, I wouldn't say it's like raw talent. It's like just so much desire and desire to express yourself that like you can be not like technically amazing, but it's still like what you're playing and doing and how you're doing it comes across as like a really clear artistic message. And I was like, look, I love music, but I don't think I have the Kurt Cobain, Jimi Hendrix thing where I can just play without learning, And I was like, I don't have the desire to practice a billion hours. And I was like, I've always been kind of a class clown. So I was like, I think if I just write what I'm thinking and try to entertain people, then, it will feel good.
So, dude, like when you started writing that stuff and you started kind of connecting and recognizing, okay, fuck music, I'm going to push that to the side.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to start writing these stories and, see if I can make some jokes out of this.
Yeah.
How was that process when you first started putting pen to paper?
Dude, I'm still figuring it out. I mean, the thing that I think of the most when I'm writing is like my family on both sides, but especially my mom's side is like Irish Catholic, like fucking.
So there's gonna be shit you can make jokes of, like.
Well, it's not even. It's like yes, for sure, but it's like I always try to like say like it's like this concept of entertaining or like a dinner party from like the 50s where like you show up and the host like takes your jacket and like the host, like everyone is making like perfect jokes and haha and like clinking glasses and like there's like a wink and a nod, like that kind of vibe. I don't know if I'm being clear, but it's like that was my mom's family.
It was like a perfect scenario
on paper. There was awful alcoholism, like everyone else. But it's like that was the image that they pushed, and they also like my mom's family is like very charming and like very kind of like again, like classy on paper, you know what I mean? But so I kind of grew up in this like waspy kind of like with like old boy on my mom's side. Like my me and my sisters call my mom's family like Ottawa royalty as like kind of a joke because it's like it's fucking Ottawa, but it's like my grandfather was a surgeon and then my grandmother, they owned a horse farm. So if like, dude, if you're fucking
if you got a fucking horse farm,
you're
doing relatively okay.
You're doing well. Even like when the money went down, they're still like, in the upper echelons of society or whatever. So it was always kind of like, I'm like, so that kind of like old money charm shit that like is captured on movies and made fun of, rightly so. But I grew up in that, and even though it's like part of it is like sickening and whack, like a big part of it, there's like a core of attraction, which is cool, which is just like an evening where everyone feels together and everyone is like laughing and joking and everyone kind of has jokes and everyone's like included. And those are kind of the dinner parties I grew up around as a kid. And I really like think of that feeling when I try to write. But in terms of like pen to paper, dude, I'm still figuring it out.
But so what are you thinking? Like when you're thinking all this, Ottawa royalty and all this stuff, like what are the thoughts that are coming into your head like when you're putting the jokes together?
The main thing that I pull from that is that like is like this feeling of like a shared evening, because I'm really thinking of the dinner parties that my mom and her family threw, and they were so nice with all my cousins and everyone was kind of smiling and shaking hands. and there's like a feeling of like a shared evening. So when I write, I mean, one of the things I'm thinking about is like, this is maybe more on the performance side, but it's like I need to make sure that when I get on stage, I can draw everyone in to like a shared event.
You paint the picture well.
Yeah, well, I think like painting the picture is absolutely important, but I mean just like you have to, like, before you even tell a thing or as you're telling it, you're like making sure that people are participating, and it's not just like I'm on stage dictating. I mean, a more like simple way of putting it is just like that, because that's kind of one side of it, and then the other side that I think of is like I want it to appear very, very natural.
Yeah,
that's the biggest challenge for comedy about me is like you're trying to appear natural in like a severely rehearsed medium.
Well, that was, I think, one thing that I mentioned to you. I think when I contacted you was just like, dude, it felt fucking natural just seeing you on stage. Like it felt like I know, because maybe I played music, that there's always rehearsals. There's always practice. You know, when you're hitting a note or whatever it is, you know you're heading to this note, and I'm assuming comedy in a certain way is kind of like you're writing music, and you know that it's going to peak at a certain point. So how do I get to this point or anything like that? But how you deliver it is the whole fucking joke, right? So you can have this amazing joke on paper, but if you just miss the phrasing or you miss that fucking spot, that it's calling for that. And I found when I was watching the show, I was like, dude, this guy's hitting the fucking spots nicely. Like,
thanks,
dude. And I'm not sucking your dick. Like,
no.
It's like, but it's like that idea.
It feels nice,
like,
but no.
It feels like, keep going. But it's that idea that it was like, shit. Like you could see that there's time that was put into this, and it felt like it. Like it felt like someone gave a fuck about the project. And I think that's what kind of stuck out to a lot from maybe some of the other comedians was just, I saw that, I was like, yo, this guy wrote this shit down. He practiced this. He's on stage, he's performing, but he's doing a fucking performance. Like it was a good performance.
I think that's the key word, is like performance. I think that's what I think about when I talk about this like feeling of a nice evening and like a collective experience is like, I'm a huge fan. Maybe you heard of this band Wolfpack, this funk band?
Oh, I think I did.
They're like kind of a funk.
Okay.
They're amazing, and the musicians are like incredibly talented. Like just technically, they're amazing.
I gotta check it out.
But like what they do when they do live shows, they do a whole fucking. It's like they put on costumes.
Oh yeah.
They do like they have like set pieces. Like it's not just. And I know this is kind of old news, I guess, in the music industry, but it kind of like got really grotesque in like the 80s with all the fucking metal and like spraying blood.
I know.
And then it got lost a bit.
Yeah, and then it's like there's no entertainment.
Exactly. And
it went like one extreme to the other.
Exactly. And so it's now, but it's like that shit is really good. Like set pieces and experience, like fucking like Kiss or like Guar, like that shit is rad, you know? And Wolfpack does that really well because it's like it's not just a song that's played, it's like a performance.
Yeah.
So it's like I think of that too, is like I don't just have a joke. I have like a shared evening for you all.
And so man, so when you were like thinking of, let's say, those first jokes, because I was like, I always wanted to try it, but I don't have like the balls to do it on stage. Like, dude, it takes courage to go on, and even if it's a 5-minute set, to go on and put yourself, because there's no background music. It is literally just you on stage with a whole bunch of people just watching you, waiting for you to almost crash. It's fucked up, especially open mic nights. There's a part of you that doesn't want it to go well, like in the crowd, but a part of you that does, because there's the two completely different spectrums of it. It's like the one that doesn't go well is the one that you remember, and the one that kills is the one that you remember. You don't remember the one in the middle that, whatever, you don't really have any connection with.
Nah.
But I mean, dude, how fucking nervous were you that first time? Or were you even nervous?
Dude, definitely the first times is kind of like beginner's luck. Like usually it's not uncommon to see people on their like first, second, third time like do really well.
Oh yeah.
Because like I remember I've seen it happen. It happened to me where you get up and you're like so giddy that you're kind of finally doing it, that you're just like, you're having so much fun and like laughing.
It connects just automatically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about the shared evening. It's like, if you're having fun, it'll be hard to fail. It'll be hard to do poorly on stage. It's like when you stop having fun, everyone can see that and they're like, well, I'm not having fun either,
Yeah.
But the first, so when I went up the first couple times, I was just, first of all, I had a ton of friends in the audience. So like that helps, like, so like did great there. And second of all, I was just so stoked that it's like you're kind of on that person's side.
How long did it take you to finally make that jump to say I'm gonna do this? Like, was it long? After
Dude,
when was your first show actually?
Man, it was kind of like sporadic. I didn't like go from not doing comedy to just doing it. I think like it's hard for me even to remember. I think like I did a show when I'm 32 now. I think I did my first show around 24, 25.
Okay, dude, so you've been around doing this for a bit now.
It's been a while since I did it, but like I did kind of 1 or 2 shows, and then I stopped for like a couple years, and then I kind of dabbled again, you know.
So what happened? How come you started and then stopped? And
I mean, I think like it was hard. Like the comedy scene was like, in a word, like repulsive to me to start, you know, because I was just like it is such a fucking grind. Like yeah, it's shitty to practice your instrument, but at least you're just like at home and you're like sitting down and you're like do do do, and you can feel yourself get better on your scales or whatever. Like, and you can just do that. With comedy, you need to go like after the first couple times, your friends don't come anymore because like, you know, they're busy, of course. Yeah. Then so you need to go sit in bars like alone with a bunch of like fucking weirdos, you know, and even if they weren't weird, like a bunch of strangers.
Yeah.
And you need to just watch people on stage, like usually say like fucking nasty shit, you know, and like, oh, like I came so hard the other day. And it's like just 8 people talking about that, you know, and you're just like, bro. So you need to go do that. And so I think I just didn't get over that. It took me a while to like chill out about that shit and like honestly not be so judgmental about like other comics and like the scene in general.
Yeah.
And also in general, just like want to do it. Like, I dabbled a bit. I was like, it was okay. Like, I don't really know. I was in school. I kind of focused on my school, and then I graduated, and then I did this job, and you're kind of like unhappy in the job, and you're like, what's missing? And it's like, oh, I'm not doing anything I love. You know, I'm just kind of like fucking around. I was still messing around with music, so I was like, maybe I'm doing music, you know. And then so it kind of took me a while to put all the pieces together. I started really doing it seriously about 2018, like right at the start of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And then I got in. I met some people in the scene who I liked. There was like some other cooler shows that I liked, you know. And then the ball started really rolling. So I've been doing it real serious from about 2018, about 4 years, I guess, 5 years, you know.
No,
so,
dude. Well, so it's crazy because you said something that I found was like interesting. You kind of realize at a certain point, like, I'm missing something.
For sure. Yeah.
What was it that like what triggered that idea in you? Like you kind of started realizing, man, I gotta go back into comedy.
Man, like a soulless job, you know, just a job that you hated. And now it's harder for me because I have a job that I like. So it's like, it's harder to just fuck off from that, you know, and like, but a job that I hated, and you're just, you know, I was so depressed, and I was like, dude, like, you know, like, not to get, but like, why am I alive? You know, like, what the fuck, you know? I was working in like tech sales, and I was like, this is so dumb and like immoral and whack. And then it's, you know, you start writing and you're like, oh, like this feels so good. It feels like I think people forget, at least I forgot, is like how good it feels to create, you know?
Yeah.
Like when you're a kid and you have like a science project. I remember one year when I was a kid, I was in science in like grade 8, and like we had to make a crane out of wood and syringes, and it was like pneumatic, you know, hydraulic
syringes.
no, but it's like, so you like glue the syringes, and then like there's 2, and you like push it, and I was so fucking into that.
Yeah.
And we scrapped the project because we didn't have enough time to finish it in the curriculum or whatever. But I stayed in at recess, like building it, because it was just so sick, because it feels so good to create. And so, you know, when I started to do that, when I was at this fucking shitty job, I was like, oh, this makes me feel really good, you know?
Dude, it's crazy to say that, because I had felt like that for a while too, because I had like kind of my outlet was music for a long time.
Yeah.
And to me, it was like, oh, I'm going to be a rock star.
Yeah.
That's it. It's official. This is what I'm going down. And when that didn't work out, it really, over the years, like you're not like hating life, but you're kind of coasting, and you're like, but I feel like something's fucking missing.
For sure.
And then at a certain point, I was like, no, dude, something is fucking missing.
Yeah.
It's like, if I just got to go to work every day and just do that, like,
yeah, see you later.
You're literally just part of the farm. Like, do your ant farm, you follow everybody else, and then fuck it, you die and it's over. And I was like, Nah, man, I can't let that be it.
Because it's true. Because it's like what? Like if you don't do, like you either make your life all about work and that's your like focus.
And that's life. Like that's cool. But if you ever had a creative side.
Yeah, or you don't like your job, then you're like, dude, forget it. Like I gotta fucking
do something. And that was exactly like how the podcast kind of like at a certain point I was like, I remember it was itching in me and I was like, do I start it? I don't know. Do I start it? Go back and forth. And I had the idea 2019 and then finally it was like, no, dude, it's enough. Like you gotta fucking do this. It's something you've been thinking about. And then when you start doing it, you're like, wait a minute, I could say whatever the fuck I want. I could, turn my house office into a fucking studio. Like, this is up to me. Like,
I know it's so close.
Fucked up. It's so, it felt so far.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're like, once you start saying, nah, dude, man, I gotta fucking start doing this shit. You realize it's like right in front of your fucking face.
Right there.
And all of a sudden, I don't know how shit worked out for you, but the moment you started saying, fuck it, I'm doing comedy, you started writing the jokes again. Were like people just showing up at that point in your life? Like it was like, what the fuck? I just looked up and like all the right people were kind of like coming around now.
Okay, so yeah, hilarious that you say that. So that band Wolfpack I mentioned, right?
Okay.
Like I love them. They're so fucking cool. I like idolize them. They were like I'm a huge fan.
Okay.
And I started getting into comedy and like doing this just like you're saying, it's right there. You just start it. And then I was like, I want merch. But I look around, I was like, everyone has fucking whack merch. Like,
I know.
I'm going to do some cool shit. I always loved embroidery, right? And
what?
Embroidery.
Yeah, okay.
I always...
For some reason, I was thinking knitting.
No, but it's like similar. But
but
it's like, I always just loved that. I thought it looked so cool and it was just neat. And Volpec, the guy who did their merch, his name is Pseudo Dudo. Shouts out Riley, And he does like a sick design and embroiders.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
You know that's crazy because I'm looking at making t-shirts.
Hit him up.
Okay.
He's I mean, I don't know. Last time I hit him up, he's like, my bad, I'm too busy. You know, but anyway, so they had been posting, like I followed Wolf and then they were posting like their merch and they were like, it's done by Pseudo Dudo. So I started following him and he was posting all these sick designs. I went on his website. It was just so cool. And so when I had to do merch, I was like, dude, do you think you can do a thing? And he was like, yeah. Anyway, so then all of a sudden now I'm talking to the guy who designs Wolfpack's merch.
That's fucking cool, man.
And we're on a call and I'm like, have you talked to like Jack Stratton, which is the leader? And he's like, I was on a call with him. So I'm like, what the fuck? Like out of nowhere. That shit. You gotta fucking I have no credentials. You know, I just like was like, can you do this? And he was like, yep. And then we had he's a super nice guy. And so it's just, it's like right there, And
man.
It's like, it can be in the entertainment industry, it can be disheartening. I'm sure you can relate with music where it's like, it's hard like not to get jealous or feel negative when people like get a gig and you don't get a gig,
You wouldn't be fucking human if you didn't at least experience that feeling of jealousy or resentment.
Right.
But then you're being a dick if you keep it.
Right.
But like in the moment, if you're passionate about something and it doesn't work out, if you don't feel somewhat like shit, are you really that passionate about it? No, you're a fucking robot
if you're just like, yep, that's cool, But like it's frustrating because like in the entertainment industry, it's two sides of a coin. It's like you don't need any credentials, right? And that's frustrating, but it's also fucking sick because you can just walk up and start doing shit, And so, anyway, it's right there.
But so then, like when you lifted your head up now at that point, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and you start looking around in the opportunities. What were some of the first fucking things that kind of like came your way?
I mean, nothing too crazy, I don't think. What have I done? I did a wedding like when I shouldn't have. I wasn't ready.
Oh no, tell me. You gotta
and I just oh God, like these people because I
So wait, they hired you? Like
I'll tell you. So it's like I had so like the first thing that started was actually my podcast, Things I Hate. Check it out on all platforms.
Yeah, do it.
But like my buddy convinced me to do that and I was like I really didn't want to do it because I was like
the podcast or the wedding?
The podcast.
Okay.
I was like, dude, it's so cringe. Like just a fucking bunch of bros on the internet, like saying the same shit, But he was like, I can't remember exactly what he said, but he was like, look, dude, like you can kind of either do nothing or you can just give it a shot and see how it feels. Just like, dude, like just try it out. Like who cares? So I did it, started to feel really good. And I made all these clips about me just like you know, going on rants essentially. And I put them on like TikTok, and they got a bit of traction. And then so much that some of my old friends had seen them. And so these were people like, I used to run a painting company, like the student painting companies. Okay. And so it was all like people there. And those guys are all like, they're all like pretty like hardcore, like psychos, entrepreneurs, you know. Anyway, so they saw it and they're like, we saw you're getting married. Like, or we saw your stand up. Like, can you come perform at our wedding? And this was like probably 2 years ago. And it was like, no, I was not ready. But it's like, they're like, we'll pay you. And I was like, fuck
I'm
it,
ready.
you know, like
I'm ready all of a sudden.
So I was like, fuck it. And I asked them if I could bring some other comics, and they were like, cause that would have been way easier, you know, but they were like, for some reason they were like, no. But anyway, I was like, fine, give me like, cover my room and board and pay me, I forget, like $200 or something, and I'll come do it. Which is like, dog. Anyway, I went down there. I get there, I bring my homie along to video it, and we get in, and like, it's all like, think of like a high school reunion, and then the stage is like you know a big wooden spool, like for wire, you know,
okay, yeah,
and it's like 2 feet in diameter. That was the stage.
No,
and they were like, here you go, and like I was pretty drunk by the time I got up because I was like so fucking nervous. I get on stage, like I start just like almost yelling at, like I do just yell at these people because no one is listening. Because it's a fucking wedding.
This
and
I was
like,
gonna say, it feels like a wedding singer moment.
Dude, no one is ready for like stand up at a wedding. So I was just like, there was these ladies in the front row. And I was like, excuse me, like pay attention, you in the front row. And she was eating a cookie. I was like, you eating the cookie. Like put that shit, you know, I was like off the rails. And my homie is in the back videoing. He's just like, oh, fuck. But anyway, like,
dude, you have that copy? You have that video?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We edited it for YouTube to take out, you know, and then after he was doing the edit, and my set was like 25 minutes. He's like, how much should I leave in? I was like, a minute, you know, like take it all out. You know what I mean? But anyway,
you know that part where I say, hey, how's everyone tonight? And then, hey, good night.
Exactly.
Those are those 2 parts.
Exactly. But I had like 2 okay jokes and some okay crowd work. Like, one was at the start, so I had like maybe 2-3 minutes.
What were you talking about? Do you remember what the set was about?
Well, the crowd work, they like the crowd work because I basically just started roasting all my old friends, and everybody loves that. Everybody loves a roast, especially a roast about people they know. Yeah. So I did that. That went really well. Then I went into my material, which was like my material 2 years ago, which was fucking dog shit.
What was it about?
It was I have a peanut butter joke that I still actually do. It works sometimes.
Okay.
I had this joke about phone chargers that was just like, it's still pretty shit, and it was like, I couldn't even tell you. You know, I can't remember. Probably blacked it out. But anyway, so like just like pretty shit for a solid 15, 20 minutes. And then I ended with like a classic joke I have about adventures, girls going on adventures. And that did well. So at least I ended like pretty good. And I started okay, but it was a fucking rocky set. So that was something that happened. That was like my first corporate gig. Then I did a bunch of shows around town. I did a corporate gig for my friend like a year later, and that went really well. I could bring some comics, and I just hosted it or something, so that went well. But yeah, man, honestly, like pretty local shit. Yeah. You know, I haven't got any love from JFL yet. Still waiting on that. There's this guy in the city, Ben Cardili. He hosts McKibbin's on Monday and Tuesdays. Okay. Anyway, he is partnering up with this brand called Don't Tell Comedy. Okay. Excuse me, which is like they kind of do like secret shows, and the comics usually blow up pretty good. So I'm hoping to get on that, but yeah, no, just kind of local shit for me, dude. I haven't blown up yet. I'm still on the low. You know?
I'm waiting for them to find me.
Dude, you're coming in on the ground floor. You know what I'm saying? Nice work. Nice work.
I catch you before on the run.
Yeah, man.
But dude, so it's okay. So all that stuff is going on. Like the wedding was kind of like this half disaster, half fucking like. But at the end of it, when you finished it,
I don't regret it.
Exactly. I was gonna say, like, dude, how did you feel at the end of it? You're like, holy fuck, I just got room and board. I got paid $200 to tell a bunch of fucking jokes. Was that kind of like a bit of a wait a minute, this is something that I could do, like for like maybe one day I could do this for a living?
Yeah. You know. Definitely. That was pretty surprising.
Yeah, because when you get paid for something, when someone actually pays you for something, you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
What?
And it's like you can't, as a comic, like, I don't know that much about the industry yet. You know, I know about the Montreal scene. I don't know about the comedy industry, especially in the States. But from what I've heard, like, if you're not like famous, or like, if you don't have enough clout online to book your own tours and shit, you are like chronically underpaid. You know what I mean? So the play that I've heard is like you get like 100,000 followers and you book your own shit, you know? But yeah,
like the Andrew Schultz and all these guys now that are fucking
yeah,
they're killing it, right?
They start. I mean, yeah, they started online and then they built a following, and now they're with Rogan and you know whatever else. But yeah, so when I got that, I was like, oh, sick! Like you can make money, but it's also like, you know, I know where my material is at, and like I'm a pretty hard. I have like high standard of living that I want, and I'm like a pretty harsh critic of my own work.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, I don't. Basically, in my mind, it's like I got to get 30 minutes together to have like a marketable product.
So do you have that 30? Because I know obviously you have the shorter set. How hard is it to build? Like I think of 5 minutes on stage, and maybe even because I worked in TV, you have 30 seconds of dead space. It literally sounds like an hour of like nothing going on. So to write like 5 minutes of like constant entertainment, just speaking with no other visuals outside of yourself, dude, you got to fill up a lot of space there, but not over speak at the same time, because then it becomes like way too much information. Whereas that balance, and then times that by fucking 6. You know what I mean? To do a 30-minute, like I look at the amount of effort and work in telling a great story and then making the punchlines and then, you know, kind of like all those things that go along with it. I'm like, holy fuck, how long does it take to write a joke or to write a set of even 5 minutes?
Oh, dude, it's I can barely tell you because I'm still figuring out like the process. But the best analogy that I give is like, okay, you know, you've been to parties, you're a cool guy, you know, you have some interesting stories, I'm sure, that are like funny.
Yeah.
Then you're like, you know, someone's like, oh man, I was at the gym the other day. And you're like, let me tell you about this fucking time I was at the gym and some shit. You have that shit in your brain, you know, whenever you go to a party, you're like, I can tell this story. That's basically like what I do. You know?
But dude, telling a story to your friends and then telling your story on a fucking stage, man, that's two different things.
That's the art, though.
That's the art, right?
That's the trick. Is like, how can you make everyone? And this is what I think. How can you make everyone in the audience your friends in 5 minutes? Like that's hard, and that's what I'm trying to do, and it's very hard with like pre-written stuff. And so like, how do you do it? Well, how do you put together 30 minutes? I mean, the thing I'm focusing on right now is like, I'm trying to find, it's kind of two things. It's like topics or stories that I can tell like with real emotion and interest and passion.
Yeah. And
then making sure that I can tell them without rehearsing them cold. Because if you rehearse them word for word, it sounds robotic. I can even do it where it's like you rehearse it word for word and it sounds warm and natural, but it's like you block, the comedian blocks themselves when they rehearse it, you know, word for word, because you don't allow the space for the natural conversation. So I try hard to like get a concept or a joke or an idea that I can speak from the heart on, but have still kind of an outline planned.
How do you do that? Like, how do you practice that? Like, I'm just curious because I've always been interested. Whenever I see a great comedian or someone that's really funny, like I said earlier, it just seems so natural, but you know it's rehearsed. So how do you do that, knowing that you're not hiding behind the guitar? You're not hiding behind a pedal or a drum set or even a song where it's a melody. It's like your voice is somewhat the melody too in there, right? So how do you know when you feel right that the joke doesn't feel rehearsed?
I think it's like just when you have a really strong emotion and around an idea, and when you think of that idea, your emotions stay strong. Like sometimes, you know, in the minute, like I'm an irritable guy, you know, and sometimes I'll be like, fucking dish soap doesn't work. And I'll be like, oh, that'd be hilarious to talk about. And then I'll go back to it a day later. I'll be like, oh, like I don't care about that at all, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, I think if you have if it makes you laugh, that's a really good thing. If you go back and you read it and you're like, that was hilarious. Like, that's great, you know? Because it's like, a recurring emotion that you believe.
Yeah, because I've written down stuff, you know what I mean? Of
Yeah.
like, oh, ideas for jokes. And then I'm looking back at it, and sometimes I'm like, oh, that's still pretty funny.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I'm like, this is the stupidest
Yeah.
fucking shit I ever wrote. Like, how stoned was I when I
Yeah.
wrote this fucking joke?
That's classic.
Yeah.
That's and like, dude, like it's happened more than once where I'll sit down and write like a page and I'm like, this is fucking gold. And you come back and you're like, this is the cringiest shit I've ever seen, you know, and you're like, I gotta throw this away. So it's like, I think when you see like a sentence or two or have an idea, like usually I can tell I'm like, I bet you I can do a good bit if I think about it more than once without like writing it down. Or like I've been kind of like accidentally, you know, on purpose using my girlfriend, because I'm like, when we're having a conversation and I'll like just be telling her some shit and I'll be like, oh my God, like she's kind of I'm telling this like a bit, she's kind of laughing. I'll be like, oh, maybe I should try that. And sometimes I try it later and it doesn't work. But so I guess like, you know, back to the story analogy, like if you're telling your friends some shit, like if you're telling someone, you're like, oh, I can't believe this the other day, like some fucking guy cut me off, you know, like I guess like what you are telling people in your regular life as like anecdotes, I use that as a flag too. So I guess like a couple flags, like what you're talking about, what makes you laugh again when you see it, you know, if you keep thinking about something. I kind of use all those as like indicators.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And so now, like when you're doing all the stuff, you're working at it, you're doing the shows, and you see like the reaction like that night, let's say at Melrose. Like, it seemed like it went super well. Like everyone was having a good time.
Yeah.
Like, how do you walk out of that? Like,
well, I mean, sometimes you walk out where you're like, I got a big dick.
Like, I was like, I can assume. Like,
yeah. Sometimes, I mean, like, it depends. It's also like, it depends too, because it's like, I mean, I walk out of every set lately, like, even if it feels good in the moment, I'm like, it doesn't mean anything, because it's like, who gives a shit? I had a good 7-minute set with the same fucking 7 minutes that I know work.
Are you starting to get tired of the material already?
That's the biggest challenge, dude. Is like, you have to, that's why I was like, trying to find shit that I really care about, that you won't get sick about talking, because it's like, dude, that's why people say like they kill material. You know, I used it up, because it's like, man, you can only say the same fucking joke a number of times before you're like.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, dude, at what point do you start? How do you start recognizing that I'm done with this fucking joke?
Dude, it stops being fun, and you can tell it instantly on stage. It's like, I had to do a set once where I just like, I don't want to tell these jokes, and you get up and I'm like, you know, I think I told it. I was like, I have some joke about my mom, you know, and I'm like, my mom used to say this shit, and like, you know, I don't fucking care. You know, it's like that energy, and people are like,
but sometimes it's actually funny.
Sometimes,
in a way that you're delivering it, saying that you don't even give a fuck, but it's actually the funny part.
Exactly, and so that's what it, and that kind of comes back to what I was saying, is like, you have to tell the joke that night the way you're feeling, and so when you write the joke, it has to have room for your current emotional interpretation.
You know, it's funny you say it, because like with all these other things, you can kind of get away with feeling like shit or not in the mood. But stand-up comedy, dude, like, it must be fucking tough to fake a set.
Well, dude, it's like you say, like, you know, not to talk down to any other medium, because I think if anything, it's like I said, comedy is a low barrier to entry, you know. But with most other art mediums, you have like a buffer, which is the instrument, whether it's like a paintbrush or like a fucking guitar, you know, or like drums or whatever. Even if it's like theater, where you're dressed up and you rehearse,
and there's music there still and all this shit.
Yeah, you have like a buffer in that. But comedy, it's like I'm saying, you can kind of create a buffer.
Yeah.
And like maybe some comics can do that, where they like rehearse it. And you can do that. If you're feeling like shit, you just fall into, like, I've rehearsed this 100 times. I know I can do this if I do it like this, and I smile here and I move my hand like that. That can be your buffer if you're feeling like shit.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think part of the point of art is to have fun, right?
Yeah.
That's why I fucking did it. So I don't like to do that. And if you don't fall back on a rehearsed bit, yeah, you have no buffer. Your whole energy is the art. So it's like, that's tough. It's tough to do. It's possible, but tough.
Yeah, dude, for sure.
Yeah.
And so now when you're thinking of jokes nowadays,
yeah,
right? Because there was a few. I'm trying to think of some of the stuff that you were talking about. I fucking found it hilarious, but can't think of anything. But it flowed very well. Like the story from the beginning to the end flowed well with family shit, and it looked like you drew a lot of stuff from the family.
Yeah.
You know? And your mom specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, you got to talk about your mom a little right now, man.
Oh, me ma. She's wonderful. I love you, ma.
He's like at the camera, Mom, I love you. Okay.
I love you, mom. But I mean, yeah, who doesn't draw from their fucking family? You know, and I was the youngest boy, so I was a mama's boy, and you know, my pops worked a lot, and so me and my mom, we hung out a lot. Like, she picked me up from school, and she really like babied me and spoiled me and stuff. So like, you know, like of course I love my mom, but this is all, as you get older, like you see the flaws in your parents, you see that they're human.
Yeah.
You know, and so you like all that shit is true. You know, my mom would tell me like,
with it after.
yeah, she would tell me like wild shit. Like that whole joke is true. Like I write shit off. Like, I mean, another way to tell if it's a good joke is if you're like sitting down and you're like, damn, like I remember that was wild, you know, and you're like, what the fuck? Like I find some of my best writings when I'm doing the dishes, because you just like zone out and you're like, oh. And you're like, man, I can't believe Ma said that. And you're like, oh, maybe I should fucking write about that. You know? So like I was just thinking like one day, like, dude, my mom told me what quadriplegia meant as like a young child, you know? And I would be like, I was like, she'd be like, you become quadriplegic. And I remember being like, what is quadriplegic mean?
Why the fuck are we talking about?
She's like, it's like 4, you know, quad. It means none of your limbs can work and you have to like eat through a straw. And I was like, holy fucking shit, you know?
And how old are you when you?
Oh, like young, like 6 or something, you know, or like young. And she's just, you know, so I was like, dude, that's fucking insane. So I had to write about that. And like, it's like I said, her dad was a surgeon. So
yeah, dude. So he must have brought home all kinds of shit that fucked her up, and
you know,
fucked you.
And I think like anxiety runs in my dad's side, and I think it also runs a bit on my mom's side. You know, so I don't know, but it's like, you know, so he was like, he like something I never heard of again, or like not as much as a kid, but like my mom would always be like, when you're cutting, like cut away.
Yeah.
Which is a great rule.
Yeah.
But she would say it like all the time. And then my grandpa too would be like, always cut away, you know? And like,
and it sticks with you, that shit idea. Like, what the fuck?
Bro. And it's like those memes where it's like, as a kid, you thought quicksand would be like a way bigger problem. Well, it's like, that's the same shit with like cutting away. Like the amount of times she told me that, my grandpa told me, you'd think it would be like plastered on fucking billboards, you know? But it's like, so anyway, so all that to say is like she was just kind of intense, as like I was the youngest boy, I'm the only boy, and you know, her dad was a fucking doctor, so like about my mom, I don't know, she's very loving and sweet, but she likes things a certain way, and so that kind of came out sometimes in her parenting, and I don't know, that shit I joke. I don't want to talk too much shit about my mom.
No, I'm sad.
She's lovely. I love my mom.
No, I'm not saying talk shit about your mom. It's because me too, dude. My mom.
Yeah.
Dude, there's certain things when I think about like my mom. I think that's why I related to the jokes. You know, like it would be these things that she would say, like, "Be careful the stairs," and you're like, what the fuck is going on? Maybe I'm the youngest too.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of like similarities of this idea that every corner you turned around, you could die.
Dude, well that's the. Yeah, that was, and I was writing it, you know, I started writing about, like, the quadriplegia thing came second. The first thing, because I started talking about was, like, dude, at the movie theater. Like, I always remember I was, like, fucking petrified of the movie theater. Like, I loved it, you know, like, arcade, like, fucking sick.
Yeah.
But petrified of the fucking customs agent, you know, at the you know, because that's how she treated it. And that's kind of the joke, is, like, she would always... And it's just like in the joke, she would crouch down to my eye level and like look me in the eye and be like, this is your movie ticket. Like, if you lose this, they won't let you in the theater. And I was like, holy fucking shit. You know, they won't let you in the theater.
It's an intense moment.
And you're like, you know, and then I asked her later, I was like, why were you so fucking intense about that? And she's like, because I didn't want to have my movie interrupted by you like fucking around. And I was like, you know, and so now we're laughing about it. We're like, Ma, it's fucking crazy. Oh my God. But then my sister had kids, and this is just, you know, in the joke. And it's like, you know, I remember like walking my first nephew when he was like 1 or 2. We were at a restaurant. I just like took him kind of out and around. And we're in Ottawa, which is like not even a big city, but we're like downtown. And he's holding my hand. And I'm looking around, and there's like cars. There's like strangers. And I have this like child. And I'm like, dude, he could die anywhere, you know? And so it's like, then you're like, you kind of get it. You're like, oh man, like these kids are fucking dumb, and like you got to keep them on the straight and narrow, you know? So it's like, then you gain empathy, and that's kind of the second half of the joke, you know, is like you get, you know, so it's like, yeah, my mom was kind of intense about the trampoline and shit, but in retrospect, you know, she wanted to watch that fucking movie, you know?
Well, dude, but I get it, because like even my mom, same thing. There would be these stories, and she would be obsessed with like murder mystery shows and shit.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't know why all moms, do they love
I don't know,
shows about fucking dying. Someone getting murdered.
The most grotesque shit.
Yeah, the most grotesque shit ever.
Cut his head off.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah.
Let me watch the second episode.
Yeah.
And so it was always kind of this idea. Like now I recently came back from a trip, and I was out west. And when I got there, I was staying at this ranch in next to Joshua Tree, the desert. And there was no one there. Like there was no guests. It was just me.
Scary.
Yeah, pretty fucking scary, right? So I remember the first night going to bed, I'm like a bit like, like my mom showed up in my head, and I'm like, if I died right now, no one would ever find me. Like if someone murdered me, like no one would ever find me right now, right? That was my mom. She just showed up. It's like, Stef, did you know that if you died right now and someone murdered you, no one would ever find you? And then I'm like, yo, what the fuck? The other side of me is like, why did that voice come in? Then my mom calls me a few days later when I come back. She's like, so how was the trip? And I was like, oh, it was good. I stayed at a ranch. Like, just to put it out there, see how she reacts, right? So my mom's like, the moment I told her, I said, yeah, man, I got to this ranch. It was like in the middle of the desert, and I was the only one there. Dude, a millisecond.
Yeah.
You know, if somebody would have murdered you, they would have never found your body. And I'm like, Matt, like a part of me was kind of laughing right away because I knew it was going there, but it was just like right away. It goes to these crazy scenarios that are always like the worst thing that could possibly happen.
Dude, and it's wild. Like I stopped telling my mom. My mom would be like, you know, like, how's your health? Like, how
you never tell your mom the truth,
bro? She's like, have you been to the doctor? I'm like, yep, went last week. You know, like perfect test. You know, she's like, good. I'm like, yeah, it's great. Yeah. How about the dentist? Oh, teeth. They said best teeth they've ever seen. You know?
And they're like, perfect.
Yeah, and they're like,
they don't want to know the truth.
Now my mom is kind of like, she's like, really? I'm like, yeah. And she's like, okay, great. You know, it's like,
it's just one extra question, but they're not.
Yeah, exactly. She's, you know, so it's just because it's not worth it. And then like, if you say like, oh, I haven't been to the dentist in a while. Dude, I get like follow-up emails with like resources and like why it's important to clean your teeth and all this shit. It's like, Ma, I love you. Like, I don't need this shit.
I have to withdraw information.
Yeah.
Like I have to keep it in my back pocket. If my kid, there's even a slight little sneeze.
With the grandkids, forget it.
Forget it. Next level.
Forget it.
She calls me. I told her, Mom, stop fucking calling me.
Yeah.
Like I love you, but you got to stop fucking calling me. Like on the hour to find out if I'm like, she's at daycare, dude. I don't know where the fuck it's like. She seems like she's fine. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Get her an AirTag for Christmas and
just lock it down.
Yeah.
But it's crazy, dude. So comedy seems like it's still an outlet for you to have all these like funny stories and everything. And so now, when you're looking at the projection of this now, like, and you're having fun with this and doing that, what are kind of the thoughts like about this path that you're taking when it comes to comedy? Is there kind of like these questions of like, should I continue? And what's going to make me continue? Like when you're feeling like, I'm sure when there's those rejections and all that shit that comes your way, like how do you kind of like pick yourself back up? I find that's always the hardest part in a lot of scenarios, you know?
Dude, honestly, it was really hard like last year to be in the scene and, you know, just to be real, like see people who you think you're better than, like getting gigs that you believe you should have. You know what I mean? Which is like kind of a shitty thing to say, but it's just like, as you say, is like the nature of being human in the entertainment industry. But it's like, I had to work through a lot of those feelings and a lot of that anger and like chill out. And now it's like, you know, it still happens where it's like if you get rejection or whatever, you don't get a show, you're still like, fuck that guy, you know? Yeah. But it's like, but now I just always remember, I'm like, dude, what's the point of this? Like, the point of this is for me to make good art, you know, and my art being like, make an experiential evening where I can bring people together. Yeah. I can like perfect this skill of like, you know, making friends instantly. I can have these good stories. And the reality is that I'm not even close to where I want to be with that shit.
Yeah.
So even if like Netflix hits me up tomorrow, they're like, we have an hour special for you. I'm like, I can't do that. You know, like I don't have the material for it. Like in terms of like written jokes, but in terms of like the skills, like I don't have that. It'd be like you pick up guitar, you're a year in,
someone says
and
you're
fucking
gonna go on tour. The fuck,
yeah, like fucking I don't know. Rick James, like I want you to play backup for me.
Rick
or fucking,
James, out of all.
I don't know. It just felt right,
Rick
but
James.
I don't know.
Do I give you like a porn 70s vibe?
No, I don't know. I don't know why. I was like, I thought about it, and I was like, that's weird. But I was like, I'm gonna say it.
I'm gonna go for Rick James.
But I don't know. Whatever. Imagine Dragons wants you to be there. I don't fucking know. You know
I
what
think
I
I'd
mean?
rather
Like,
go on the Rick James.
exactly. Yeah. Fuck you. Yeah. So
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
like it sounds like a blast, but it's like that's what I mean. So it doesn't matter like who gets what. Right now, the only reason I want to get showtime is to get reps in.
Yeah.
Right.
It's practice now.
And it's like I won't be like there's a couple things I want to hit before I'll start to get kind of serious about progressing. You know, like I'm comfy in this plateau right now, and then I have a lot of work to do here.
Yeah.
But it's like the first thing is I need 30 minutes. And the second thing is I want to develop the skill to do that experiential evening in 7 minutes with no crowd work. Because crowd work for me is easy. You know, I can get on stage. You take all the guardrails off, so you don't have that handicap of it has to be rehearsed.
Yeah.
So if it can be completely off the cuff, of course, it's sometimes harder to think of shit, but it's like, anything you say is coming straight from the heart. So people are going to relate.
There's no
easier.
filter. There's just like right away that instant reaction. And that's what kind of makes it fucking a good like crowd work. I'm sure great comedians, like every time I see it, you see always a great comedian. At a certain point, there's some crowd work that's done. It almost feels like it reestablishes them, like kind of coming back. And then boom, they come back into their set.
Fully. And I think, and there's an art to it too, though. And it's like, there's good crowd work and bad crowd work, in my opinion, and like good crowd work is, and it can be really easy, but I wrote this down in my phone. It's like, I forget it was something like, collaboration, not confrontation. Cause it's like, if the audience is, and I believe this, the audience should be like your friends to some degree, and if they're your friends, you shouldn't just stand on stage and be like, what's up, you fucking idiot? Like, you look dumb, that's bad crowd work, but you can do that and get laughs. And something I do, and I see other comics do that I really am trying to kick the habit, is that a really easy crowd work thing is you ask someone a question, any question, and if they don't respond in, 3 seconds, you go, oh, you can't fucking think of anything,
Yeah.
But that'll get laughs because everyone's nervous and it's shared thing.
Yeah.
But it's shitty because it's like, dude, like you're a comic, like yelling into a mic at a person sitting a foot away. Like, yeah, give them a minute, So it's like I try to like. It's really easy when you're doing crowd work to just really show your insecurities.
Yeah. Because
comics are really insecure, and if you're doing crowd work and you're just kind of talking shit about everyone, that's whack.
Yeah.
It's harder to like kind of have a conversation and like make a joke that's not really about either of you, like not self-deprecating, not attacking someone, and have it still be good.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to do more of that, and it's not to rule out like roasting or it's not to rule out. It's just to say like, don't just shit on the audience. That's shitty crowd work,
But I find like with anything, you always have those things that will work.
Of course.
Right? Like, and if you're fucked,
jump into
it.
Like I just go, you fucking idiot.
Yeah, you just got to take it. Like when I do music, like there's certain songs that I fucking hated playing.
Yeah.
I hated playing them, but I knew if the crowd was shit that night, we'd look at each other and we're like, dude, pull Crazy Train.
Yeah.
I fucking hate this song. Yeah. And it was like dun dun. Dun dun dun. It's like also and all this fucking
and the crowd's
French, and we'd be in this bar somewhere in Quebec, dude, a fucking up north or whatever it is, and all of a sudden we play your songs like dun dun, and it's like dude, and everything, and then the whole crowd came back, and it was like the song that saved the night almost, and then we kind of like all fell back into place again, and we're like, okay, and if that happened again, okay, rock and roll from Zeppelin, and it would be like this fucking like connection because that works, and sometimes you just need that. But then we'd be like, okay, we want to play songs that would like there was more of an art side to it, right? Like how am I gonna take this and make it better? How can I be a better musician and all that stuff, or as a better band, like those improv sections, and just kind of open up and so I find like you see that a lot, like when that maturity of the comic, it's like it's almost not going to the easiest thing you can say.
Yeah.
And kind of saying it's a craft now versus just telling jokes.
Well, yeah, that's exact, and like just to kind of agree with what you're saying is like that the crowd work can be used in exactly the same as those shitty songs. And if you're having a rough set, you kind of bring it up. Yeah. Just, shouts out. But yeah, I think like if we're again drawing parallels between music and stand up, it's like you say, if crowd work is kind of these easy big hit songs, and then you as a musician, you go into some experimental piece with like a 5-minute guitar solo and like a 5-minute fucking tin flute, you know what I mean? Like,
dude, I'm loving it. What, if I could play flute all of a sudden?
Yeah, I don't know. And like there's bagpipes, like some weird shit. Like you have to, if you're gonna do
I gotta go to whatever show you're going to. There's Rick James, there's bagpipes, there's fucking flutes and shit.
It's fucking tight.
It's fucking tight show, man.
Tight. Nice. But it's like you can do that, or you can do that only if you get a rapport and trust with the audience. It's the same thing as like as a comic, like you want to talk about for like 10 minutes, like for me, like the intricacies of Dungeons and Dragons, something that's kind of niche, not a lot of people are gonna get. You need to build like rapport and trust, so that and like get your viewpoint across, so that when people go with you on that journey, they're able to get it. And you can't just start cold with some wild ass shit, because they're like, yo, we have no like context, we have no like base for this. You're coming up here, some fucking weirdo talking about D&D, you're coming up here, some guy playing a 5-minute bagpipe solo, it's like, what the fuck? But
what the fuck just happened?
If they hear you playing Crazy Train and they're like, oh, this guy fucks, this guy rocks, then they can get in there at the start and be like, oh, okay, the bagpipe, okay, I see it. And then you hit them with the drum and they're like, oh, I get it, So yeah,
I find like what I liked about the show, let's say on your end, I keep on coming back to that because that was the only one that I saw, was you gave the story, you gave context, like you were saying, right? There was all this shit. I find one thing too that I see a lot with a lot of comedians is they like to just come out and say the dirtiest shit possible just to grab the attention.
Bro, don't even get me started on this. This is like a real pet peeve.
Dude, but I don't understand, because I'm like, is it just me? Or is it like, this is like a passe way?
Dude, honestly, I think comedy...
Like, I don't say, not to shit on comics.
No.
But it's just like, I find it's like, I know I can go to, my girlfriend's a bitch joke, like I get it, and she's probably not, but you're making her out because, it's like this, man, woman joke shit all the time. And even if you are doing that joke, it's like, there's a different way you can say it,
Yeah. So here's my thing with being dirty is like, I don't consider myself a clean comic. And I don't really have a desire to be that, but I think like if you're going to be dirty, great. But as you're kind of implying, don't be dirty for the sake of it.
Yeah, don't say dick just to say dick.
Exactly. Yeah. Like if you have a funny story that's like true to you, if you have a funny idea that's very true and it involves like explicit shit, great. Like fucking say it. But don't just come on stage and be like, aren't abortions hilarious? Like, that's fucking whack. You know what I mean?
Dude, and it's like the worst statement you can make.
Yeah.
That there's no context to it.
Yeah.
And they're just saying something that was like top of mind on fucking Twitter.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, dude.
And it's just shock.
Come on, man. It's just shock, exactly.
It's like immature because it's just like, it's like people are not, they can't distinguish like shock from laughter, from humor.
Yeah.
And they're just like, it would be shock. Like, I find that a lot of comedians now, like not just in Montreal in general, are like mistaking like their punchlines. They're mistaking like a funny punchline for a shocking one.
Yeah.
And that's easy. Like I fall into that too, where I'm like an easy thing where you're writing something and you're like, oh, and then like tagline abortion. And you're like, oh, that's not funny. That's just shocking.
Tagline abortion.
It's just like, but it's like, it's easy to slip in.
Yeah.
But I think comedy in general right now doesn't have a lot of good role models. Like I'm not a huge Rogan fan. I don't really like that shit. I think this idea that I've been talking about where it's like an evening or like a group experience is not reflected right now in comedy. I think it's like, because I like part of the allure of comedy is being able to say all this nasty shit, which I think is really important and good. But it's like, it's just slipped where it's like too much of a good thing, too much junk food. It's like, the point is to not say gross shit. The point is to say not to be too hippie, but like say your truths. And if they involve gross shit, then fucking rip it.
It's like a sprinkle of gross shit. It makes it better. You know?
Or a lot. I'm not
No, but I'm just trying to say, it's like, if it calls for it, put it. And if it's a whole fucking cake worth of gross shit, fantastic.
Yeah.
But it's like, I agree. Like, I find even with the podcast, it's like, just let it flow. Wherever the fuck it goes, it goes.
Yeah.
And sometimes it goes somewhere, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it gets stupid, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's hilarious, and sometimes it's serious. But let just the conversation go. And then, you know, sprinkle in wherever those pieces are that make sense to kind of like pick it up, you know what I mean? Or whatever.
Fully.
Or, you know, and so that's why I find with comedy, I think maybe that's why I enjoyed the show, was I felt like it was an evening. Like I appreciate it. I enjoyed it. I remember I looked at my cousin and everyone was busting our chops on it because they kept on thinking we were fucking each other. Oh, you know, I was like this Louisiana thing going on or whatever.
Oh yeah.
But it was just like I felt like I was at a comedy show.
Cool.
That was the part that I enjoyed. That's nice. So, dude, so what do you have? I know we're not coming up towards it, but I mean we're getting towards a certain part of the show where I was like asking, like, what's up, man? What's something that people in the next few months, are you doing anything you're releasing anything new or something you're excited about?
Yeah, I'm excited about a couple things. So my podcast is coming back. It's called Things I Hate. I already plugged it, but Things I Hate on all social media.
We'll say it one more time. We'll even zoom in. Things I Hate.
Things I Hate on all social media. It is on Spotify and YouTube. It's also on iTunes. But I got some tech shit to do. When I started it, I was like, I'm not going to use a podcast service. I'm going to be independent and build. And it's just like, dude, such a nightmare.
Dude,
like,
just fucking use Buzzsprout or something.
Dude, now
just
I have
fuck it.
Like, I'm in tech, so I know it a bit, but it's like now I have a fucking website. Now every 3 months I got to get an SSL certificate, which it's just like anyway. But anyway, that's coming out. I'm really excited. I got a bunch of banked episodes, and then it'll be every Sunday. And I have a bunch of clips. This was like a really thing that kind of accelerated my career. Is like I blew up on TikTok just a little bit, you know, and it kind of gave me some footing. So that was about a year or two ago. So I'm bringing that back. So I'm really stoked. I had to stop in the summer because I just got too busy and like stressed with work and shit. But that's coming back. That should be released before the holidays. I don't know about confirmed date yet, but I banked a couple episodes. Need to finishing editing, and then I'm gonna put them out and do it every Sunday. So that's really sick. I will plug this other thing that I don't even know if it's gonna happen, but like, you know, I don't know. This is, as I said, very professional. You seem like this is like all mapped out and sick. For me, I often like last time I recorded Things I Hate, I forgot to plug my phone in. The battery died, and like I lost, you know, I don't know, dude, like 30%. Dude, I made fuck ups,
dude. There was one show, the fucking where I was recording because I wasn't recording here at the beginning.
Yeah.
In the fucking studio, they had like used up all the data or whatever on the memory, so it just like stopped in the 40th minute, and just there was no fucking the last 20 minutes just didn't exist. Thank God the guy there had recorded some shit, or else we would have had like literally the last 20 minutes just completely gone.
Yeah, so like that shit happens all the time. My camera gets fucked up on because I'm using my busted ass phone, you know. So I keep having these episodes where I'm like missing video in some places. And of course, it's always like the best parts where I was like, I was going to clip that, you know? Yeah. So I was like, fuck, like, what am I going to do? Like, I'm not going to get on camera and like mouth my, like, that's so whack. But I was like, but you know what'd be hilarious? If I got a fucking puppet. And then I had the audio of me talking shit, being like, you know what I fucking hate? And if I had a puppet that looked like me and I could be like, you know, I thought that'd be fucking hilarious. So I don't even know if I'm going to do it, but I reached out to some, like custom puppet guys, and this is the same thing.
How do you have that conversation,
bro? Literally, I was just
how did you search that shit?
I was like,
custom puppet guys.
This is just like, it's right there. You could do all this. So another idea I had is like, I run the
go for it. No, dude. There's no time delay here.
I should tell too, like Giggle Den. If you don't know, but that's the show I run out of my apartment. It's going to be changing now because
what kind of show is it?
It's a comedy show.
Okay,
and it's like, dude, so it was so sick. So it started out as just like kind of a comedy show in my apartment. It was like really cool and fun and great, but it was just like basically a comedy show. But last year I was like, we got to up this shit. So I hit up some of my musician homies and we got like a live band. And now we do it kind of like Tonight Show, and we do like back and forth with the band, you know?
I don't know. Don't take this in the wrong way. I'm going to ask you a question. Okay.
Yeah.
Has anyone ever told you that you remind them of Jim Brewer?
I wouldn't. That's a compliment. No,
okay, I was
no.
like, dude, I found Jim Brewer fucking one
From SNL.
Yeah,
Yeah,
dude,
the guy.
Dude, he used to have like so many bits, like from Goat. He was Goat Boy, and he had all these bits.
He's kind of stoner a bit, eh?
A bit. He was in Half Baked and whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No. High praise.
Okay, perfect. I fucking found Jim Brewer hilarious. So the fact that you're doing something with music, he did something at one point like that too with music.
No shit. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm like, what are the fucking odds? This guy just reminds me of Jim Brewer. Now mentioning with music. So
No. I appreciate it. He has a story about another one of my favorite, like Norm Macdonald on the set of SNL. Anyway, I'll send you the link. It's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm trying to, like, one of my dreams for a while, like one of my huge inspirations is Conan O'Brien. And
dude,
like
Conan's fucking amazing.
Dude, so I'm kind of like thinking like maybe I'll turn this into like a Tonight Show comedy show.
Merv Griffith show, like
Yeah.
Kramer had in the fucking apartment, dude.
Exactly. Wait, what? The what?
Kramer, remember in Seinfeld where he found the whole set. I don't know if you. Anyways, I was a huge Seinfeld fan.
Little bit, yeah.
And he found the whole set behind like a studio that they threw away the Merv Griffith show, and he took it and he built it in the apartment. And then he had a bunch of people coming on to the show, and he had the music going on, and it was like this show that he created in his apartment.
Yeah. I think I remember that. But
dude, it's amazing that fucking episode is classic Seinfeld.
I watched all of them when we put them on Netflix. But yeah. So maybe something like that. But I have to move, so it's going to change a bit. But anyway, I forget where I was going with this.
Well, that was an idea though. You want to do like a Tonight Show vibe?
Well, it's like
Conan
Giggle Den will happen. It usually starts in like the early spring, but it'll happen. So you can watch my socials for that. But
and
yeah,
are you gonna have on the show?
thing,
Sorry, dude. So
Yeah.
two things because I love this stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna follow for sure and watch
Yeah.
it. So Giggle Den will be what, like it's already done, like the show. You've already had episodes, or this is an idea that you're coming up with?
No, sorry. So Giggle Den I've been running for like 2 years.
Okay.
And it started 2 years ago, and it starts like kind of like I said, like early spring, starts in my apartment, and then I used to have like a dope shared backyard where I live, and we would do it out there outside. It's like really sick. I'll send you some videos. Excuse me. Oh god, disgusting. But but yeah, so it finished for this year. I usually like wrap it in like, around September. So I finished it for this year. And then, but I have to move. So it's like in limbo right now where it's going to be, but I'm pretty sure I have a venue. I'm talking to the guy now. He was like a fan of the show and offered his apartment. So that was really cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. So we're working on that. But that'll come back like early spring in some form or another. It'll be there. So that's sick. Things I hate, and maybe this fucking puppet thing.
Dude, that's fucking sick. And are you gonna be doing a lot of live shows too, like the stuff like the sets at like Melrose? You're still doing stuff like that, or?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. You can catch me like just follow my Instagram tom.dlmurphy. That's where I put all my shit, and it's I'm at Melrose on Wednesdays a lot. I'm at Deli Planet on Thursdays a lot. I'm at McKibben's sometimes on Tuesdays. I'm at Comedy Nest sometimes Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. So
it's
any of those.
Fucking busy schedule then, dude.
Well, it's not every week, you know what I mean. But I'm usually up like 3 to 5 times a week. So if you follow my Instagram though, I put most of my shit on there. So
awesome, dude, man. Well, look, fucking happy you came by today,
dude. It was a pleasure.
Yeah,
it was
man.
such a pleasure.
It was fucking great, man. And
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing the stuff that you're coming, whether it's puppets, fucking Giggle Den, dude, all that shit. And honestly, I think you're doing a really good job. And man, just keep it up. It's good. Like, just keep it up, man.
Appreciate it, man. Looking forward to the Christmas party.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, dude. Hell yeah. Woo.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Dude, that was great.
Hey, thanks for checking out the show. It's been awesome working on this project. And if you like it, tell a friend. And if you want to support the show, you can by 1, subscribing and liking our YouTube channel at the DMW Podcast. 2, you can go to our website and sign up to our mailing list at the DMWpodcast.com. And 3, you can follow us on Instagram at the DMW Podcast. Thanks again for all of your support. My name is Stef, and this is the Dead Man Walking Podcast.